Hello, hello, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. Hope you are having a fantastic Monday afternoon. Really looking forward to this topic because I think it's a great time of year for a topic like this. I feel a lot of us are only going to start thinking about this whole thing come January. So I figure now in silly season, when the risk of things going a little out of hand is at its most intense, it's a good time to remind ourselves of what the basics of the process are and just be a little bit more mindful about the process. So if you guys are in the building, go ahead and swipe in, say hello. I got my comments over here on the side. Let me know you're in the building. I'm really looking forward to this chat. I think it's really a good one. I played around with the topic's title, with the topic actual header. Between the power of consistency, the power of the mind, the power of the brain, because it also like ties together. So I'm really looking forward to exploring this topic over the next couple minutes with you. Karine, hello and good afternoon. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Gabby, hello. Danielle, how is it? How you doing? Hope you guys are having a fantastic one. Thank you for joining. You guys are super consistent with immersing yourself in the community. I love seeing your names pop up. Stefan, my good man, hello. Fancy seeing you here because I was talking to you like 10 minutes ago. Hope you're having a fantastic day, sir. So I also debate how I want to start this. What's the best way to contextualize the idea here in a way that's easy to understand and also easy to remember. So Janine, hello. On your lunch breaks, this is a fab topic. Yes, man. That's why I love the 12:30 time slots. Nice little lunch break, little teaser. Not gonna take your whole lunch break, so do feel free to plan the rest of your lunch break. I do want you guys to have like a pen and paper. There are a couple take-home messages I want you guys to like reflect on a little bit and take with you. We have I'm gonna butcher your name, Joandy. I think that's how. There's a Joe and there's an Andy smooshed together. I'm gonna go with Joe and Andy. Oh, Yoandi? Maybe? Let me know if I'm butchering your name. I apologize. I am terrible with names. Miney will let you know how terrible I am with names because I butchered her name, which, I come to think of it, was maybe like almost a year ago at this point. But once you explain it to me and break it down syllable for syllable, I tend to remember. But okay, without further ado, let's get into the topic at hand. So I'm talking about the power of consistency. The reason why consistency is such an important fundamental virtue or value to have is that it applies to a lot of aspects in life. A lot of the Jeff Eds we do, a lot of the contextualization we have in these topics, we normally try and apply into your health and your fitness and the progress of your body. But a lot of these things, what's true for a health and fitness journey tends to be true for many other aspects of life. It tends to be true for your career. It tends to be true for the relationships in your life. It tends to be true. It's true for life in itself. There are what I call objective truths, and consistency and how powerful a tool it is does not just relate to your body, your health, your fitness, your weight loss. It extends itself into multiple other goals and other avenues of your life. A nice example I like that I heard, cannot remember the speaker's name, but he related it to relationships. So if you ask yourself, like, if you're married, like, how much do you love your husband? Do you love your wife? Do you love your girlfriend, your fiance? And the answer would be like, yeah, of course. If you're in a nice, stable relationship that you're happy in, you'd be like, yes, I do love them. And then you'd ask the question, okay, when is the day that you fell in love with them to the degree that you're in love with them now? And that is also, it's a very loaded question, very difficult to answer. There's no real specific day for the vast majority of us. You can't really pinpoint to a day. If I think about my relationship with Mandy, I can't think to a specific day when I woke up one morning and I'm like, yes, I love this woman. It's more it came gradually over time. And when you think back even further, like, okay, maybe you can't think with a specific day, but is there a specific action that you did that led to that result? It's very hard to pinpoint that. It's almost impossible because there isn't any one action that led to that. What led to it is communication over a long period of time, words of affirmation over a long period of time, spending time with each other, saying good morning in the morning, first thing before you did anything else. It was giving them a hug. It was giving them flowers on Valentine's Day. And the sum accumulation of all these things together over a period of time is what led to you falling in love with the person. It's what led to a stable relationship having formed. And that process, that consistency over time, you can apply to very many things in life. It's like with me, I have a master's degree in human movement science. And the end goal of that was a culmination of 12 years of primary and secondary school. It was a 3-year base degree. It was 1 year an honors degree. It was another 2 years in the master's degree process. So there wasn't any one day that I can trace back to that's gonna be like, oh, because of that day is the reason why I got a master's degree at the end. It's like, no, I had to show up to classes, tests, perform well consistently over 16, 17 years in order to get this end goal. It was a consistency from grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and onwards that led to this final result. And that's the real power of consistency. So now that we've contextualized it in the real world and figuring how much of an objective truth this is, we can now bring it down to why consistency is important in health and fitness and why it works. So it's because it's true in all other aspects of life. How it's true to the human body is the human body does not tend to do knee-jerk responses to stimuli and have those knee-jerk responses stick. You've been alive for a couple of years now. Your body's used to a certain way of living. If you are slightly overweight, you're holding on to a couple kilos that you would rather not hold on to. What that typically means for the vast majority of us is that the environment that you have placed that body in has been conducive to added body weight over a length of time. Typically, you've been over-consuming on energy. Your body has thus been storing that energy. You overconsume by 1 day, you're not going to really notice anything. You overconsume by 2 days, nothing's really going to happen. But over a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, a year, those small, tiny accumulations, that small, tiny amount of consistency you've kept up, consistency in the wrong direction, because consistency doesn't have direction. That consistency of consistent bad habits or over-consuming on calories is what leads to eventual weight gain. The consistency of you not moving your body around, constantly sitting down in a chair, only getting up when it's absolutely necessary, parking as close as you can to the grocery store and only walking the minimum distance that you can manage. The consistency of doing that is what leads to stiff and painful joints. What eventually leads to forms of arthritis. And your body responds to that consistency. It responds to the environment that you keep it in. So when you reverse that consistency in a different direction, you move more, you do more of Kathleen and Nicole's yoga classes, you do more of my HIIT sessions. You start moving your body more, you follow Adrian's nutritional plan, you start under-consuming ever so slightly in a caloric deficit with your energy intake for the day, and you keep that consistent, not just for a day, because if you do it for a day, you're going to look in the mirror and nothing's happened. You're going to do it for 2 days, you're going to look in the mirror and nothing's happened. A week, maybe like 0.25% change has happened. Over 4 weeks, maybe 2% change has happened. Over a year, suddenly the change is massive. And that's how this consistency works. And a lot of us tend to overestimate how much progress we can do in a week and underappreciate how much progress we can generate over a much longer period of time, a year, 3 years, 5 years. So that's a common thing we tend to fall on. We undervalue the power of consistency and overvalue the power of intensity. Because unfortunately, and this is true again in all avenues of life, in your career, in your academics, in your relationships, intensity without consistency doesn't actually work. It has never worked. It's not a universal truth. It's not how the universe tends to work. If you proclaim your love for someone as loud as you can and as intensely as you can for an hour and then never do it again, that person is not going to fall in love with you. That relationship is not going to form. You haven't put in the groundwork over time to ensure that that is stable. If you, in subtle ways, by holding their hand, having a conversation with them, telling them you like their eyes, and you do that every day for a year, that is much more likely to lead to a stable relationship, something that's strong, its foundations are deep, it's rooted. It doesn't need to be intense, but it needs to be frequent. It needs to be consistent over a long period of time. Same thing with the human body, and that's how it works. So a couple things I want us to sort of contextualize all of that into, and a couple things that we can now start to practice daily is, one is the process is more guaranteed to happen is if you're enjoying the process. It's you enjoy the pursuit of your own potential. Part of the reason why falling in love with someone and getting into a relationship can be often very easy in the beginning is because you enjoy that pursuit. You enjoy the pursuit of the potential of what this relationship can bring. The same thing is with your own body. You have to enjoy the pursuit of your own potential. Like, your body is built to be capable of a lot of amazing things. And you need to try and find some kind of enjoyment in pursuing that potential. When you're a baby and you've just been born, you can't even eat food. Like, you're limited to just milk. You can barely digest that the first couple of days. You can't see. The only form of communication you have is to scream. You can't walk. It took 9 months to make you, and you're pretty much useless. But you're born with so much potential. Over a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, over 50 years, you could create technology that can bring man from Earth to Mars. Like, you're born with so much potential, but you need to consistently realize that potential over a long period of time before anything actually happens. So you went from all you can do is cry and everything you do is reflex to now you're able to change the path of humanity forever. But you need to enjoy that pursuit towards your own potential, because it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a very long time of consistency for that to happen. So whether you're Elon Musk and you're trying to get us to Mars, or you're Joe Soap who's trying to lose 5 kilos and be healthy for themselves, for their friends, for their family, it requires consistency, and enjoying the pursuit of unlocking your own potential makes it leaps and bounds easier to unlock that potential and remain consistent. Number two, you need to try and be aware of what you're doing. Like Kathleen will put in the context of mindfulness. Because if you're not mindful of the process, you don't often realize when you're not being consistent. If we take that relationship example as our viewpoint, if you're not mindful of your own actions, you may start doing things that are sabotaging your relationship without even realizing it. Maybe you're a little harsh when you speak to your partner. Maybe you don't actually acknowledge the good things they do for you. You've missed birthdays, you've missed anniversaries because you weren't mindful of what was happening. You weren't aware of your surroundings. The same is true for your own health and your own fitness. You need to be mindful of the process. Don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it to this abstractness, because that's when you're like, you actually snuck in a couple extra portions here. You've skipped a couple extra workouts there. And that is what's leading to your lack of progress at the end. It's a lack of mindfulness about the process. It's part of the reason why you'll hear at the end of every HIIT session we do, we always try and remind you to log your workouts. And part of that's because we're trying to make you more mindful of the process. It's very easy to forget that, you're averaging 2 to 3 sessions a week, as opposed to 3 to 4 sessions a week. If you aren't really tracking that progress, you're not paying attention to what's happening. Logging your sessions is a nice, easy, simple way of ensuring you're mindful of what you're doing. Every so often, you're looking at what has come before, how many sessions have I done, how many sessions do I plan on doing next week, being mindful of what you're doing, both in the short term and in the long term. Another thing you need to look at is taking your ego out of the equation. A lot of us have this subconscious ego about us that, I have put in so much hard work over the last month, over the last 3 months. I have worked my ass off. I've done everything I could possibly do, and nothing's happened. I'm now disappointed by that fact, so I'm going to quit. It's that ego, that hurt feeling of like, oh, all my hard work is not being rewarded, that ultimately sabotages your success in the end. Because the whole reason we say like trust the process is to try and reframe your perspective away from you and how you feel and what you're doing, and more into what does the process require of you. It's our feelings get too easily hurt by, oh, like I suffered in today's session. I put in half an hour. I sweated as much as I could. I burned 350 calories. I weighed myself the next day and I picked up 200 grams. It's our egos being hurt by that perceived effort to reward ratio in the short term that ultimately stops us from realizing that this is not going to change day to day. All the effort you put in this week, next week, for the next month may not prove fruitful in the immediate short term. It's going to come eventually, but you need to take your ego out of it and that need for instant self-gratification. You need to take it out of you and realize, like, listen, the only way this works, it's been tried, tested, and proven over the last 100 years, the only way this works is through good nutrition, good exercise over a long period of time. There is no other method that works. So if you are following the only tried and true method, you are going to get to your end result. Quitting and not doing the process is not going to lead to success. So take your ego out of the equation, stop feeling butthurt over it, and just trust the process. The same way that studying really hard for a test today is not going to lead you to passing the test tomorrow. You need to study hard over a couple sessions. And even if you study hard over a couple sessions and pass that one test, that's not going to lead to you graduating that grade at the end of the year. You need to study over a long period of time for many different tests. And those many different tests added together are the result that how well did you do this year? And over the course of many different years is how it determines how well you have successfully completed the course as a whole. So we need to take our ego out of this whole need for instant gratification, just learn to trust the process moving forward. Another thing we often tend to do is we set our goals too high and too far apart. The bar is set way too high. It's part of the consistency. Part of part of what gets our ego hurt in the whole process of consistency is holding ourselves to a standard that we can't possibly meet. So I find a lot of people, and we're going to get a lot of that come January, with the New Year's resolutions kicking in. It's like, oh, I'm going to eat healthy every single day, 7 days a week. I'm never going to miss a training session. I'm never going to eat a bad thing for me. I'm going to be 100% on plan. And going from someone who has never followed an exercise regime, has never eaten properly for a consistent amount of time, going from 0 to hero in your first week, completely unrealistic. If that is the standard you're going to hold yourself to, you're ultimately never going to meet that. You're going to feel like a failure. Your ego is going to kick in and you're going to want to quit. Part of the key to consistency is breaking down what consistency actually means into smaller steps. Consistency for me, for example, is once a day, I need to perform some kind of physical movement for at least 5 minutes. That is, I've been training for over a decade now. I'm a health professional. I'm a coach. There's a huge amount of pressure on me to live the life, walk the walk. But for me, my consistency is every day for at least 5 minutes, I have to do some kind of activity that is beneficial to my physical well-being. That can be a walk, that can be stretching, that can be a full-on session, whatever it is, only 5 minutes. And what that does is I've set the bar so low that it is very easy to achieve. But what that also does is it's also very encouraging for me to want to achieve. It's so easy that I would have to actively try and avoid doing this in order to succeed at it. So what that means is on Sundays when I've had a really long week, I'm very tired and I'm not in the mood, rather than there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to do a half-hour session right now, I'm way too tired, I'm rather in the mindset of it's only 5 minutes. I'm literally going to do 5 minutes of stretching and hop right back into bed. it's so easy that almost impossible for me to fail at it. But what that does is it means for the last year, unbroken, I have been physically active every single day. I have done something towards my own wellness. And even though the consistency was small, it has so far been 100% accurate. It's been 100% there. I've shown up every single day. Some of them were super easy, like literally all I did was the 5 minutes. Some days I started with the intention of only doing 5 minutes and ended up doing 10. Some of them started with, I'm just going to do 5 minutes of stretching, which turned into, I'll add a 10-minute walk on top of it since I'm up already. And because I've set the bar so low and but held myself to that set standard, that I've been able to build on that. And you can progress whatever your bar is. Maybe for now, you're saying the bar is, I'm going to have one healthy meal a day. Other 2 or 3 meals or whatever, but one of those meals needs to be at least what I consider healthy, and start from there. Don't try to go from 0 to hero in one shot. Try and be realistic with yourself, mindful of who you are as a person and what your background is, and working your way up from there. And then the last thing I want to sort of hit home is also just try and identify what your core values are. And that's also going to help set on what the bar standard you're going to set for yourself is. And it's also going to help you just gauge your progress in a holistic sort of view. Like, what are your core values? What are you trying to achieve by doing this? And what are the core values that are going to ensure that if you stick to this, you see success? So one of my core values is I'm trying to be as healthy as I can be in a very unhealthy world. Right now, the way our world is set up is it's not conducive to how human beings are meant to live and thrive. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, before cars and planes and all that good stuff, we had to walk everywhere we wanted to get to. We had to do physical labor in order to get our food. It was very easy to be physically active, to get to move around a lot. Eat healthier was a lot easier if food wasn't scarce in your environment. But if food was plentiful, you had crops available, it was a lot easier to be healthy, a lot easier to be active. With all the conveniences our smarter brethren have been able to create for us, their environment isn't necessarily as healthy anymore. So now we need to actively sort of create healthy environments for ourselves. It's not passive anymore. So my core values are to try and be as healthy as I can be in spite of an unhealthy environment. Try and put things in my day that force me to be healthier than I am. And now one of my core values is, because I'm a power lifter, I want to do things that are conducive to my performance. So a core value for me is like, when I'm eating a meal, I'm like, is this going to help or hurt me in the long run? Is what I'm doing now going to help or hurt my performance in powerlifting? Because that's my sport. I'm very passionate about it. It's something I care a lot about. So I've integrated that into my core values, because it needs to be something you care about. If you're someone who doesn't actually care about their health, you should, but you're not forced to. It's going to be very difficult to force yourself to if you're not. If you're not someone who cares about your health all that much, it doesn't really make sense to try and make, I want to be healthy as my core value, because ultimately when you meet resistance, you're not going to care enough about that goal in the first place for it to hold you accountable. But rather you're like, listen, actually, I don't really care about being healthy per se, but I want to live as long as I can, spend as much time with my kids as possible. Then that's a related core value, but with a different perspective that maybe means more to you. So thinking about, what are my core values? What are the things I care about? And how can I integrate that into what I'm trying to do? Be mindful of those core values, hold myself consistent to those core values, and use that to gauge my motivation moving forward. It's more trying to remove the need for actual motivation, and your core values, your discipline, your determination to those core values is what keeps you going, whether you're actually in the mood or not. Because motivation is a spark in time. It's the spark that gets the fire going. But if any of you, like I was braaiing yesterday, I helped Owe to braai yesterday, and she's not the greatest at making the fire. So it's the whole, if you need a new spark every 5 minutes to keep your braai fire going, that is a pretty gut fire. Like you're gonna have a bad time. You shouldn't require a new spark every 5 minutes. You should require the one spark to get things going. You have your blitz, you have your coal, you have your wood, and that regardless of whether a spark shows up or not down the road, keeps the fire burning until you need it. And it keeps the fire burning the entire duration of what you need it for. So it's motivation gets you started. Discipline is meant to be what keeps you going. Discipline to yourself, discipline to your core values, discipline to your mindfulness practices is what keeps you going. Whether you're motivated or not, if you stay true to those things, then it's going to be far easier for you to keep consistent over the long haul. I'm seeing a couple comments coming in here. Don't want to get too carried away. Karine saying, I'm guilty of all of this. It's the best of us are. I'm guilty of it myself every now and again. Carol saying, we need the community. We need the community that we get here. Being in isolation so much is detrimental. Thanks for your thoughts. Yeah. So part of what the core values can also be for me is, as soon as I feel like I'm in danger of sort of waning a little bit, rely on the community around you. Like the Jeff community is always there every time I've been vulnerable and just put my thoughts out in the open. You always get positive feedback back, and knowing that, okay, I'm not alone. There's people who care about my journey almost as much as I do. There's people going through their own journeys as well. They're being consistent. Auntie Pat's going to log a session today. Karine is going to be on the comment section. Gabby's going to be in the comment section. Danielle's going to be in the comment section. If those people show up and are consistent, I have no reason to be not consistent. So just looking at the community and just being like, yes, like this is, I'm not alone. I have a community around me. They're consistent, so I want to be consistent. So it's like entrenching yourself in that as well is also a really great help. I just want to make sure I touch on all the points I wanted to touch on. Yeah. So basically what I'm telling you is consistency is if you look at that whole relationship analogy, it's making sure that you're in a stable relationship, that your partner loves you, you show love towards your partner. Sometimes it's the big, I bought you a bouquet of roses. I want to splurge with you. Let's go out and buy a couple things in the store. I bought you a gift. Sometimes it's those grand gestures, but more often than not, it's the small, boring, unsexy things you do on a daily basis that really form the foundations of how stable this relationship is going to be. The same thing with your health and fitness. It's sometimes you're going to go on that really long 3-hour run. Sometimes you're going to do 10,000 steps. Sometimes you're going to do 3 Jeff sessions in a row. But it's the 10-minute walks, adding greens onto your plate, making sure you sleep at a decent hour, all those boring, unsexy things consistently over time. That's ultimately what ensures your success. All those other grand gestures help and they boost, but they don't get the ball rolling and they don't keep the ball rolling. They're just there to boost the experience every now and again. So it's trying to be consistent to the boring stuff because it aligns with your core values, because you're mindful of the process, and because you're enjoying the pursuit of your own potential. That is what's going to keep you going in the long haul. So I want us to have that thought heading into silly season, because Christmas week is next week, New Year's week, the week thereafter. I want us to keep that thought. And even though we're allowed to have fun, we're allowed to enjoy food, we're allowed to indulge every so often, it's still keeping an overall consistent mindset of, I know exactly how much fun I can have before it becomes way over the top. And I know how long I can have that fun before it becomes a little bit too much. So just being mindful of your own consistency and starting 2022 on the best possible foot that you can. Before I go, any comments, any questions? Nancy says, hell's bells, sleep, guilty, don't get enough, don't know how to switch off. Kathleen, sleep yoga, if you haven't tried already. I know Kathleen's Thrive With Your Mind guide I believe it has a section on sleep, or at least it did in one of her drafts. I have so many things in my mind. I can't keep the whole narrative straight, but touch base with her. She will have some wise words for you on sleep. She's more of an expert on that than I am. I fall asleep very easily. I tend to stay asleep really easily. So not my stuff, so not my area of expertise. Seema saying, love this, Coach Ed, you are brilliant. I do try. I'm just a human trying to get things right for me. And once I figure it out for me, I just pass on the message, which is exactly why I decided to become a coach, join the health and fitness industry. I was struggling with a whole bunch of this in my teen years growing up. I had to figure it out. And after I figured out, I'm like, let me help get this information a little bit more out there. So I'm human like you, just trying to figure it out. I'm just maybe 1 or 2 chapters ahead in the book. My saying, thanks, Ed. It's what you constantly do that defines you. Yes, it is. It is. It is. There's a quote I'm going to butcher that says, "You are what you do." In paraphrasing it, but basically, it's not what you say, it's what you do that defines who you are. So I can't remember what the exact quote is. It was a super powerful quote. I'm butchering it by not remembering the exact words, but you get the gist. You get the gist. Janine, wise words keep us going. Thank you. It is an absolute pleasure. Antoinette saying, thanks, Coach Ed. Have a beautiful day. You as well. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining. I hope you took value in this. And if you have any friends that you care about and you want to impart this sort of knowledge their way, go ahead, share this with them, send them the link. I'm sure this is on GIF Together, so it's open access for everyone. Send them the gift of, hey, I want you to have a little bit more consistency in your life. In the best possible way ever. Not passing judgment. Tanya, glad you decided to listen to this. I'm glad you decided to listen to it as well. You guys have been absolutely awesome. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a DM on Facebook, WhatsApp me, get a hold of me however you can. I will help you as best I can. You guys have an absolutely beautiful Monday, and I will see you tomorrow morning during the session.